Hello and welcome to another episode of Mark My Words. I am Coach Marc Prestera with Tom Ferry International, the greatest coaching institution for real estate on the face of the planet. I love what I do on so many levels, and today's episode is one of those reasons that I so enjoy what I do. I've got a couple gentlemen we're going to talk to, and I'll get to the introductions in a minute, but if you think about what and how Tom Ferry, the Ferry Coaching Organization, and really the majority of the real estate world should approach it, it's always watching for the things that's next. What's the next disruptor? What's the next thing that's going to change or impact the course of our industry? Right? Because that's, if we can stay in front of that we are always having a good eye on what's in the landscape and what's in front of us. Better to be a leader than a follower in this instance. And the two gentlemen that I'm going to speak with you today with are two of those exact people. First and foremost, I get full disclosure as always, Mr. Brett Thompson. Mr. Brett's also a coaching client. All right. Now, Brett is one of the greatest people on the face of the planet anyway. He's also, after being a professional musician, last basically into 2 decades has been a real estate professional, and they're located in New Jersey. Currently, Brett and Brian, I'll get to Brian in a second, work at Corcoran. And actually, it's a pretty amazing feat if you understand that this was the first Corcoran office really kind of outside of New York in New Jersey. They're literally just a stone's throw away. I'll let the gentleman talk about that in a second. Brett, on the other hand, also comes from a relatively diverse background. But the one I want to focus in on most is your work from going from entertainment to basically, I like the way you put this, architectural work, basically from houses to museums, right? A love of architecture, a love of design. And your other company is New Guild Design, which is primarily residential renovation, which, if I'm correct, is part of what brought us to this conversation as a whole.
That's true.
So, gentlemen, first of all, Brett, welcome. It's so great to have you and see you as always. Brian, a pleasure meeting you this morning. Gentlemen, talk about this disruption. What is it that you are bringing to the marketplace right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Mark. So recently, Brian and I took on a listing here in Bergen County. The listing came to us through a real estate attorney that I've worked with for many years, and it was an estate situation. We know that right now everything's on fire, right? Things are selling in record time at record pricing. So it wasn't a matter of whether we could sell this property. Of course we could.
Yeah.
It was a matter of performing at a higher level or highest possible level for this client, who happens to be an ongoing associate who I trust with. He's currently handling a transaction for my parents. So we have a very close relationship, right?
Yeah.
So with Brian on board, we had the skill set to really position the property in a way that would attract the end user, specifically affluent buyers from the New York City market, which you mentioned, Mark, is a stone's throw, literally, several miles from us. Instead of just those flippers and people that are looking to get it at a bargain. And that was the intention and like the plan.
That is the key right there. That's the key counter perspective there, to talk about how a flipper market versus an end user buyer's market and how different they are, and being able to attract both of those with a listing at a flipper price.
Right. And if you think about it, what you're talking about makes so much sense to me as an end user, because if a flipper's going to come in, they're strictly profit driven, right? They got to get it at the right price. They're going to minimize what they put into it in order to maximize the backside of it. And every day they sit on it, it costs some money. So
that's right. So they're moving quick.
Yes.
Yeah. So as Mark, you had alluded to, I have a construction background, so I can tell you. And look, we've all watched TV, and we've seen those upper shows a million times.
Love It or List and all that other good stuff, right?
And all that stuff, right? And you can see how that buying journey is very different than what a flipper's journey goes on, right? Because everything is designed in an intent for the end user, that specific person, or a couple or family, rather than a flipper, which is looking to get a broad market so that they can get a good deal on both materials and market availability, market desirability.
And consider this, if you're building and developing with the end user in mind, it doesn't have anything to do with what the profit margin is in the products that you're putting in. It has more to do with building the lifestyle that they want in a quality capacity, not driven by a profit motive at your end, which for the end user, I would think that would be the biggest gift of all.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that's great about Corcoran specifically is like the brand mentality is really to get to know our customers, right? And which, look, all real estate agents should really be that, should be, shepherds of the personality of your actual client.
Yep. And when it gets down to it, I mean, you could go buy if someone, we talked about this a little earlier before we started the show today, right? If you go buy new construction, they're going to give you that base price. And that's just mass production housing, right? Yeah. Not saying it's good, not saying it's bad. Some developers, builders are better than others, but it's just mass production housing. You want an upgraded flooring. Oh, you want upgraded cabinets. Oh, you want granite. That's where the builder makes all their real money anyway, which again, what you are addressing, and this is what amazes me about your story, is that it really is focusing on the end consumer getting the highest quality product and not gouging them for it the whole way through, but rather them doing it by design.
Right. And the team that we put together, Brian and I primarily, but we had a partner doing our financing as well, so that we really
had an important element.
Yeah. So we had one piece video that we produced that truly, it showed the neighborhood, it showed the lifestyle, it showed the property in its current state, and renderings that Brian drew up showing exactly what this house could be, and preliminary budget to get a scope of what this would cost.
Right.
And also, if you wanted to finance this as a construction, here's a person that we trust and work with that can do that for you. So it takes a lot of the guesswork and the daunting, like, oh my God, do I really want to get into this, right?
Yeah. And not having done it before, where are my unknown cost overruns going to show up?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Or where would I even start? Right? Like, I like the idea, but I mean, it's just the daunting task. It's just forget it. I don't want to do it. And these are the same people that keep getting outbid over and over and over and over and over again for those turnkey products, because where we are in this market, I mean, we've been outbid many times, even in the past couple of weeks, with 100,000 plus over asking. I mean, it is brutal.
So just a quick question. How do you source your product for your people? So if I'm a buyer and I see something that I already know, have a line on, can I come to you and go, hey, I'd like to talk to you about this? Or if I'm a seller with a type of product that needs that type of regentrification, for lack of a better phrase, what's the sales pitch to them? Is it that basically doing it in this method, they'll actually make more money than if they try to sell it to a flipper who's all profit driven and has to get it at a really reduced price?
Well, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, there's two different mentalities, right? There's the seller's version and there's the buyer's version. And I mean, you hit it, Mark, right? Obviously from the sellers, it's pretty obvious. You have a wider market share there. So you're theoretically going to get a higher dollar amount. And as we all know, flippers are always looking for a deal, and they should be. And I totally have nothing against flippers.
It's the business model, right?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And honestly, it's good for the entire community because they're fixing up homes that normally would not get the attention. But then you want to talk about the buyer side.
Right. Well, I mean, like Brian said, by opening it up to people that are looking for a finished product, they're looking for their dream home. It takes the perspective to a whole different level, right? Of really reaching, which obviously means a lot more money to the seller. Right. But it's a win-win across the board because we're providing something to simplify the buyer's life and to deliver something that they may have not seen as an option previously.
Right.
So for a buyer who's out there looking at homes for however long they've been looking, by working with this kind of model, all of a sudden you're not thinking I need it to be X, Y, and Z now. It's can this be X, Y, and Z to my specifications within 3 months, 6 months, whatever the time is.
Which also, I'm sure many others have seen right now, all those moving out contingencies that are happening where you're not moving in for another 3 months, 4 months anyway. So why not look at something that requires a little bit more work, but you'll be moving in the same time?
What you're addressing, I think it really approaches and it taps into a vastly underserved market segment. I applaud you for that. Okay. When you find a gap and you can fill it, that's where you start to shift the way people look at our industry, look at what we do, and more importantly, the way we take care of them.
Exactly.
So just out of curiosity, anything in particular you'd want to leave the audience with about the concept, what you're doing, and more importantly, we'll get to how they can reach you here in just a moment. But any thoughts? If there's someone out there who's a prospective seller, or there's someone out there who's a prospective buyer, and this is like ringing an absolute tuning fork with them in their core, what would you want them to know? What would you say? Quite
honestly, to reach out and have a conversation, because we can go through a lot of market data and dive in deeper into exactly what we were able to do by implementing all of these plans and the timeline on it. Because when you're talking about what we accomplished for this recent sale in terms of totality of the content and the direct marketing, and the fact that it was done in about a week from shooting to finished product to door knocking. I mean, we're literally knocking on doors to make sure that your neighbors know what's happening and this product. So, I mean, without having a specific, even a 15-minute conversation, that would be the next step, whatever side of the fence they happen to be on.
That's an option. It's there,
And I've got to see the stupid grin on my face right now, and this is why, because it's settling in on me on what a gift this is to your consumer, to your end user, and I'm coming at it from the more of the artist's perspective as opposed to just the contractor's perspective. I've got you grounded in music, your creativity, the quality of work you do, the attention to detail. Brian, you're coming from architectural love of architecture, which is basic construction art. I can only imagine the dreams you're creating for the clients you're working with. And, I'm sure when you're handing them the key at the end, I'm sure your thought is, enjoy the lifetime of memories you're about to have.
That's right.
I mean, that's the goal. For sure.
That's why I would join the industry, honestly, for me, at least.
Well, that's the plus. There's a payoff. It's not money. There's a different payoff in this. It's the satisfaction of helping people accomplish what they're looking to accomplish.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, gentlemen, best way for people to reach you, phone number, email address, whatever you'd want to share?
Sure. Well, we'll put our numbers up in the notes, but both of our cell phone numbers will be there. We're both on Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. Corcoran.com is one of the highest trafficked real estate websites on the planet. Number 1% of all real estate websites in existence, guys. Go there to find us, and we're here for you.
Awesome. Brian, thank you for dropping in. It was a pleasure getting to know you this morning.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the generosity of your time, and thank you for the message you're bringing to the buying into the real estate community. Gentlemen, I wish you continued success. Thank you for your time this morning, and thank you for tuning in to another edition of Mark My Words with Coach Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it, guys.